Okay, so thank you for coming here. Today we have the panel on venture and technologies. I wanted to moderate the panel, and we have great company and great panelists. I would like to firstly, so the structure, as I see it, is as follows. First, I introduce our distinguished panelists. Then we will have like 5 minutes presentation of each of us. And then you have the great opportunity to ask questions to everyone you want from our great panelists. Does it work? Okay, great. So, okay, please welcome Jean-Jacques Solar-Krupp, who is the Senior Loan Officer from European Investment Bank. So, please. Our second panelist is Edward Kanalos, who is member of advisory board of We Fund Health. Denis Davgopoli, who is the co-founder and managing partner at Grows Up Group and member of UVCA. Andrei Kaleduk, who is managing partner at A Ventures VC Fund. Rafael Yucha, who is co-founder and CEO of co-working Platforma. And Leon Podobedov, who is the founder and CEO of Grevia VC and a board member of U-Angel Business Angel Association. So here we are. And well, I would like, as I have the honor to hold the microphone, so, sorry? Yeah, but I'm speaking in it. So I'm kind of the first. So I will use this honor and use my couple of minutes to represent organization which I'm honored to be a CEO at. This is Ukrainian Venture Capital and Private Equity Association, and I assume that I have a presentation somewhere. So we are on air for almost 3 years now, and Ukrainian Venture Capital and Private Equity Association was founded with the aim to shape the Ukrainian investment market. We focus on private capital, literally on venture capital and private equity, and for now we unite more than 40 members who are VC funds, private equity funds, accelerators, incubators, and other significant players of Ukrainian investment market who invest in Ukrainian companies. Does the presentation work, or? Oh, sorry, Kevin, I don't see. Kevin Reddy represents Empire State Capital, sorry. Okay, we don't have presentations, sorry. So please look at us. Well, what we do in UVCA is we try to put Ukraine on the global agenda. We work with government very closely. We have the working group that consists of investors from all over the world and is headed by the head of presidential administration of Ukraine, Dmytro Shimkiv. Also, we do research, we do investment tours to different countries to promote Ukraine. And also, as Ukraine is, I guess, one of the countries in the world where government literally doesn't really support the development of startup ecosystem, we, with our investors, took this responsibility on us, and we try to do a lot of things to support startups. We organize Ukrainian pavilions and big conferences in tech abroad. Recently, we also have been organizing first ever Ukrainian events at World Economic Forum in Davos. We had 2 Ukrainian Davos nights, as we called it, and we had more than 400 guests over there. Among them were top leaders from the global companies like Microsoft, Samsung, and so on, and also the Ministry of International Trade of Canada, the head of administration, of presidential administration of Ukraine, and like top leaders. So literally, we unite all big investment funds that do. Oh, okay, this is we are. Thank you. So This is the logos of our members. I assume that you know most of them. So these are also the institutional organizations like European Bank of Reconstruction and Development, IFC, EY, and Deloitte, and so on. So here we are as well. Well, this is actually what we do. I've told a little bit. We also do research. We try to educate young entrepreneurs, especially tech entrepreneurs. For that, we do workshops. We invite foreign specialists and investors to give lectures, to speak, to communicate to young entrepreneurs, and this is absolutely for free. Recently, we also have issued the investors book that is like Who is Who on Ukrainian investment market. You can easily download it online. Well, the keywords are UVCA and investors book. And well, here is some statistics. As you see that among Ukrainian investment market players, the biggest number is venture capital funds. And actually, according to recent statistics of Techstars, in Kyiv there are more venture capital funds than in Oslo, Stockholm, Warsaw, altogether. So kind of a lot. So if there are startups, tech entrepreneurs, you can use this investors book for your help, and use the investor that would be interesting exactly for your company, and you can find all the contacts there and all focuses. So, well, this was the some information about the event I already told in Davos at World Economic Forum. So here we are. And so please join us to invest in Ukraine. I think this is all basic information I wanted to tell, and I would like to pass the microphone to my colleague, and please tell us, why do you invest in Ukraine, and what are your further plans?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Olga, and thank you for the organizing party for this conference, for inviting the European Investment Bank to present what we are doing. I have, in fact, a triple challenge right now. The first one is to try to keep you awake after lunch. So that's one thing. The second one is that it seems that I'm the only bank here, so I will be probably challenged by my colleagues on the panel. And the third challenge is that I represent also an institution, an international institution. So I'm almost sure that most of you don't know the European Investment Bank. So the best way to explain you what we are is to tell you that we are not a subsidiary from the European Reconstruction Bank, the EBRD. So that's what you have to understand, is that we are an institution, we are the Bank of Europe, basically. Our members, our shareholders are the 28 or 27 or maybe 26 member states of the Union. It's going, hopefully it will stop there. And we are, in terms of size, we are twice the size of the World Bank. So we are basically the largest international financing institution of the world. That being said, modestly, we do 80 to 90% of our activity within Europe, and the other 10% is basically for the rest of the world. Of course, we have a focus on our what we call the neighboring countries in the south and in the east, and Ukraine is one of the key partners for our activity outside Europe. So today we are talking about innovation. I would like to present you what we have been doing in Europe to illustrate what we want to do, to a smaller extent, of course, in Ukraine. As you know, Europe has been really lagging behind in terms of financing innovation, investing into innovation. Basically, we invest roughly, this problem has been identified since the year 2000 or so. And we realized that basically in Europe, across Europe, only 2% of our GDP is invested into research, development, and innovation. which is extremely low. That puts us very far behind the US, of course, where they invest roughly 3%, but also far behind Japan, Korea, South Korea, even behind Switzerland. They invest 3% of their GDP in research, and we don't, which is a shame, in fact. So having identified this problem, we decided to set up a program for supporting innovation, research and development and innovation. So in terms of figure, and I don't want to drown you under a lot of figures, but if you have to remember one figure is that we provided loans for an amount of 13.5 billion euros last year, out of our 75 billion of loans, so, which is quite significant, but it's not enough. And the lessons that we learn is that 80% of the investment into RDI is made by mid-cap to large cap, so large companies. But in fact, the bigger impact is done with the small and medium enterprises. So this is a focus that we are trying to push forward, in fact, by supporting the SMEs into their efforts for investing into research and development. Because what we see is that, of course, large companies, when they invest into RDI, they will grow. It will allow them to grow and to maintain their market shares. But when it comes to SMEs, when they invest into RDI, it's often results into really exponentially grow. So this is where we see the major impact, the biggest impact when we finance research and development. So that being said, what we can do in Ukraine, because we are here in Ukraine to discuss about that. As a matter of fact, this is very new for us. I was here last year, and I was very happy and honored to be invited last year to talk about our activity into financing corporates, so private sector financing. And so we did that I did that for a year, but now we try to diversify and to go into supporting innovation in Ukraine. So what does it mean? It relies on three pillars, basically. The financing of the mid-cap to large caps in Ukraine, the financing of the SMEs in Ukraine, and also the financing of the startups, basically, venture capitals and startups. So out of these three pillars, two are already in place. Unfortunately, not for the equity financing through VCs or through direct investment in startups, but onto the lending side. So let me talk a little bit about the SME financing. We have signed, in fact, an agreement with a bank, a commercial bank, pro-credit bank, which will provide a financing for SMEs, innovative SMEs, and they will provide, in fact, standard loans. But for really what these companies are needing, it's basically financing the salaries of researchers, lab equipment. They can even finance a little bit more than that, the early rollout, first phase of the rollout of new products and new technologies. So that's already in place, and I am here specifically myself with a target is to support also the mid caps and large caps into their efforts of investing into research, development, and innovation. And same thing than for the SMEs, but on a much larger scale. Basically, I don't want to make false promises, but we don't have a limit in terms of amount. The problem is rather the capacity of our future clients to borrow this money. What I can say is that often when we talk about innovation, people are often neglecting the standard loans that they can get from banks to finance that. But this is the necessary firepower for a company to implement its new patents or new processes or new products. So this is why we are here with this new mandate, is to help you, and I'm very open to any ideas or any requests or any questions that we will have after this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Prepare a question for after introductions. Ed, please. Okay.
Let me try this one. Yeah, it works. Let me respond to your question as well. So why we are here, why we are in Ukraine. And my answer is Ukraine is well positioned to be integrated in the world. And I know it might sound either very obvious or a very surprising that this is important, but this is important. It happens that I'm a life sciences guy, right? Pharma, biomed, everything related to health, so that's me. And I'll give you two cases, live cases from my area, and try to respond to them. Imagine you are a scientist, a very lucky scientist who developed a molecule that has potential to become a cure for something, become a drug that will cure something. The market of Ukraine for that drug altogether is about $50 million. Okay? And to develop that product, you need to spend $50 million. So if even you capture the entire market of Ukraine in 10 years from now, the only thing that you can count on is your basically income that would match the investment. Would you invest into development of that molecule? Another life case is you're an owner of a pharma plant here in Ukraine. You compete on generics, which means copies of drugs. And all the time you compete by price because there is no other way to compete on that. This is the way to nowhere because, you know, every time you deduct 1 kopeck from the price, you go to the bankruptcy ultimately. Again, what would you do? Would you still be developing your plant here in Ukraine? Would you be developing this part of the business? Again, answer is no. What would you do? I think these are very simple cases, so you will probably, everyone would say, do not forget there is a world around Ukraine. And if your molecule from the first case is really a cure, that would be used everywhere, not only in Ukraine. Same thing is about second case. If you're a pharma owner, if you're a manufacturer, do not forget that you can actually license, source new molecules, original drugs to Ukraine from somewhere else where it's developed. And this is very important that Ukraine does not isolate itself from other world. Moreover, other world sees Ukraine from this technology point of view as a valuable partner. You agree with me? Excellent. I understand that you couldn't say otherwise, but I hope. All right, all right. I used to be a head of investment office of Skolkovo Foundation. It's a little bit different country. Anybody who knows Skolkovo knows which country I mean. And that country chose to be isolated from other worlds. 1,500 startups in 5 technological areas, all heavily supported with financing, free financing and outside private equity financing. And it's very difficult to see successful cases. Why? Because in this world, there is only one country that can afford to be self-sustainable market, venture market. It's the US. All other countries, over 200 countries in this world, if we are talking about venture development, they all are integrated into the world development. Is it good or bad that biotech investments are not visible in Ukraine? Neither. It's not neither good nor bad. It's just a fact. It doesn't mean that it prevents Ukrainian scientists to develop new molecules. It doesn't mean Ukrainians will ever see new products, new drugs coming to Ukrainian market. It just means that on the way from one thing to another thing, from one stop to another stop, you should use all capabilities or all opportunities that the other world offers you. That's kind of the message I'm trying to deliver here. It happens that I'm wearing a hat here from We Fund Health investment platform. That's a matching platform, global one that pre-selects, kind of qualifies projects that are looking for financing, and then pre-selects investors who are specialized professional investors in that specific area, and then match them. In a way, the investors can actually invest in a portfolio of projects. So it kind of resembles, stock exchange. That's one of the ways how Ukrainian startups can be actually integrated into this global environment. And same thing works backwards in another direction. If we are talking about pharma companies in the US who are concentrated, focused on commercialization of their technologies in the US, this platform offers them the opportunity at no cost in terms of time, effort, and money, commercialize their technologies in the rest of the world. And everyone is happy. Why? Because it's true for every country in the world, and it doesn't really a bad characteristic of Ukraine. It's not a good either, but still, to be integrated in the world development in venture market is a very good thing. That's the message I'm trying to deliver.
Thank you.
Okay, nice to meet you, and good to see the really great community. And I can see two regular participants of our meetings, Mr. Johnny Walker and Jack Daniels. But actually, I see common faces in the audience. It's really cool. About our position. So we are Growth Up Group. We are working with early stage companies from idea to prototype, maybe a little bit later. And we are working on this market since 2005. And about half of our time and our energy we are spending on community development in Ukraine. I'm talking about entrepreneurship community. 2 years ago, we decided to focus on international connection of Ukrainian entrepreneurial ecosystem, because as we discovered, one of the key success point of any local ecosystem is international connection, to be a part of the worldwide entrepreneurial and investment ecosystem. So I see a lot of colleagues who are sharing our vision and doing a lot of things in this field, and I think Andrei and Leon will continue my discussion. So for now, we have three main directions. First, it's to help Ukrainian entrepreneurs to go global from early stage, from the first steps, not to focus on the local markets. I'm not only about Ukraine, I'm about European market, but to go to the biggest market in the world, like United States. So historically, we are working with a lot of organizers of the global events like Pioneers Festival, the Next Web, TechCrunch, and so on. And usually we are providing huge discount for Ukrainian entrepreneurs to attend these events. For now, we are just opened co-living space for Ukrainian entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley, because probably if you still have no financing, it's really expensive to visit Silicon Valley to have vision, to meet investors, to meet industry experts, and so on. So we're trying to decrease the cost for such type of trips, and to attend the global conferences and to meet global community. Second, last year we organized a conference in Dublin called SVOD Europe. It's a part of our old initiative, Silicon Valley Open Doors Conference in Silicon Valley, which will take place in Silicon Valley next week. And discovered that it's a really problem to build a bridge between Europe and Silicon Valley. So I think the next 2 years for Europe at all and Ukrainian market, particularly the very important topic will be cross-border investments, cross-border companies, because if you want to be successful, you need to use strengths of different countries. For example, Ukraine is a good country to have R&D here, maybe United States is a good country to have business development and product development part of your startups. And if you're an international company, you can have financing from maybe third country like Germany, Switzerland, London, and so on. So I think the future of Ukrainian successful startups is international cooperation between countries, between different parts of this business, like R&D, business development, financing, and entrepreneurship talent. That's also we will work on it maybe next 5 years. Yes, we are planning to live here in Ukraine. I have no any plans to relocate to Europe, to United States, and I think that most of our colleagues will work together. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Enrico Leduc, Ventures Capital VC Fund, and also chairman of UVCA.
Yeah, thank you, Olga. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm a serial entrepreneur, but also the founder and managing partner of Venture Capital, which is one of the first VC funds in Ukraine for our foreign guests. And we invest as low as from 250K to 1.5 million per company. We have a portfolio of more than 10 companies right now, all of them targeting global markets, usually US one. Our portfolio is very diversified, but it's all kind of IT in different fields. From augmented pixels, it's augmented reality play, to software companies, security, IoT, Internet of Things. One of our company, by the way, PetCube, is gonna surprisingly pitch here as well, and some other things. So we've been on the market for many years, and we continue to invest. We usually focus on the entrepreneur rather than technology domain. We love disruptive things, and we continue to invest. We usually invest at the stage when the company already ready to scale and have at least from 20 to 50K per month on monthly revenues. That's when we step in and helping them to scale the business in the US market. Primarily our companies in Silicon Valley, but also have offices, some of those in New York, Boston, and some other cities in the US. So actually our mission is to help Ukrainian entrepreneurs to build companies, global companies out of Ukraine. That means that in our mandate, we only invest in the companies that have a Ukrainian angle. Okay, it's very important for us. It's going to be founders, teams, wealth creation is going to be out of Ukraine. It's very important for us. Now, I'm going to tell you some facts about Ukraine, right? I mentioned to you that Ventures Capital one was the first fund, but now, as Olga mentioned, in the who is who in Ukrainian investment markets, we have 24 investors already. Why? Why they're here? Because now we have not only investors, because investments following good entrepreneurs and good projects. And we have more than probably 3,000-4,000 already startups. We have, I'm talking about last year, we had probably like more than 80 deals. Just think about it. Literally 1 or 2 deals per week happening in Ukraine. This is happening. And probably next week we're gonna publish on the UVC a new report, and you will see that number of deals is growing. This is a trend. We have new investors coming in, we have more deals happening. Now, speaking about the Ukrainian integration to the world, and it's happening right now, guys. Those of you that heard of, probably many of you heard of Fourth Industrial Revolution or been in Davos, you heard what is changing the world right now. This is a magic word like augmented reality, AR, virtual reality, AI, artificial intelligence, blockchain, security. All these pillars that actually new wave to create a big unicorns, big billion-dollar businesses. All in these verticals, Ukraine have not only heritage, but also the current expertise and the base to build these businesses. That's the reason why I'm not only a patriot in this country, being in this business for 15 years, but also now it's happening right now that Ukraine is going to be perceived because of the expertise and talent in these particular fields. Okay? Because now it's becoming a global trend, and we all here. This is, I'm telling you, for you, that Ukraine now is a place to support such entrepreneurs that building businesses in these fields and some other ones. This is happening right now. Of course, we all would like to have more exits, right? But still, our industry is still in the early stage, right? You need to consider that too, right? But I'm not going to tell you about many of the exits that already happened or happening. Of course, you can read that in our reports, our deal books that we published for the last 5 years, for example. The $500 million been invested in almost 700 deals. Just imagine, just for the last 5 years, the industry did not exist, whatever, 7, 8 years ago. So it's happening right now. So you're welcome to join that one. And the good news are that we have now competition between investors for the good startups in Ukraine. This is just happened just recently, I would say for the last 6-8 months. We didn't have it before, but now we're not only building syndicates, but we do compete for the good startups in Ukraine. This is already happening. And I like this fact because it's not only consolidates the industry, but it also shown that the quality of the pipeline, quality of projects that we can invest, and also not compete, but collaborate between investors. Because, for example, in our session, you can see investors that invest in small checks for pre-seed, seed, Series A, etc., to the growth stage. So basically, the market is pretty much covered in different segments. So any company any good company could receive investments at different stages. But following Israel model, right, when the wealth creation happened in Ukraine, but the company competes globally. It's not about Israel or Ukraine. This is how the world it is, right? Basically, the good news about our environment is that we have people in Ukraine that we would love to support, and we continue to do so. And we welcome new investors that come in every week on road shows here in Ukraine to actually co-invest with us. So welcome to the club. Let's make successful exits. Let's Ukraine prosper. Thank you.
Thank you. Rafael, co-working platforma, you're welcome.
Thank you. So I'm from Israel actually, but I live in the last 2 years in Ukraine, so by now I'm Merid Chachol. We established our community, it was actually exactly 1 year and 10 months ago, and in the meantime we grew up by 10 times and multiplied our community the same. Currently we have 2 locations, 2 community spaces, one located in Artsavod Platforma, and the other one is located right here in the city center in a building that you probably all know, Leonardo Business Center. Our community counts at the moment more than 600 people, and we are sitting on more than 6,000 square meters. We have more than 50 partners who are providing our community with our community members with different services, and we are holding different lectures, events, and like everything that can, let's say, fertilize our community. Few times a week we are like fully scheduled with this kind of thing. So basically what we are doing, we are providing entrepreneurs in Ukraine with the opportunity to work not from an office but to work from a community, which means to work with much more possibilities, networking, opportunities, partners, and whatever that it takes in order to facilitate the growth of their business. And actually, like in the recent time when we are working, we showed up great results that really prove that working in a community-based platforms increase the chances to succeed. And 70% of the companies that started in the co-working grew. So much grew that some of them left us. For example, Solar Gaps that you all know, and others that just like oversized to our platform and move forward. And we are always trying like to keep up the pace and to find like other like membership solutions in order to host them all. Ever since, by the way, that we opened and until now, we started with 2 different types of membership. By now we have already 6 in order to follow up the pace and the different like modes of entrepreneurship that exist in the Ukrainian market. I can say that from like the emotional point of view, it's really exciting. It's really exciting to work in Ukraine. I didn't believe that 2 years ago when I started this journey that I will be like by now here. Like I did believe, but I was like, it was like really joyful process to see like how everything is raising and how like the opportunities are raising and how like so many different and new companies are entering into the market and more motivated people that are like educating themselves really fast and are growing really fast and are like starting to be like well positioned like very fast. I can say that like meeting an Ukrainian entrepreneur 2 years ago and meeting an Ukrainian entrepreneur now, it's two different worlds completely. We are in our platforms, like actually when we started, we thought, okay, co-working spaces, community spaces, it's a real estate business. We will just like do locations, we will do them really nice, very well designed. They are very well designed. And we will have people just getting in and so on. We really understood that actually it doesn't work this way. Right now we have in our co-working an innovation department that it's taking care of generating content, and I can say that like by now we are generating content that occupies our lecture rooms and halls like at least 5 times a week in Leonardo and in Artsavod Platforma. We are very much focused to innovation, and we are welcoming any kind of collaboration that can help us creating an innovative ecosystem that will attract entrepreneurs. We also have like special proposals for different startups, and we are initiating contacts with ventures, angels, investors, and so on in order to have them close to the startup that will sit in the co-working while proposing to the startups favorable financial terms to join our community. So this is what we are doing. We believe in the Ukrainian brand. We do believe that from our co-working will go up at least 5 unicorns, and we hope that the next year that we will sit here, it will be like actually well proved. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin Reddy, Senior Advisor of Empire State Capital Partners.
Thank you, Olga. Thanks everyone for coming. Good afternoon. You know, to answer your question, Olga, basically I came last year to Ukraine for a very specific reason. I came to actually tap the talent pool you guys have, which is a world-class talent pool compared to Silicon Valley as well, for my startups I invest in. But once I actually start meeting folks in the startup ecosystem, some of them are sitting on this panel, and also talking to some of the startup founders, I realized that there are some gaps, and there are a lot of opportunities that actually can be tapped. This is a very, very nascent startup economy. Is like almost like a Wild West. So at the same, I mean, there are a lot of challenges out there, but at the same time, that means there are a lot of opportunities for investors and also anybody who's involved in the startup ecosystem, right? So one of the things that we're looking at is basically, I personally wanted to get involved is develop the startup ecosystem. I'm based in LA. I was living in Silicon Valley and did my first security software startup and sold it. And after that, I became an investor, and I have some background in management consulting with Pricewaterhouse, Accenture, Booz. Right now, my more focus is on as a startup advisor and investor. And I'm involved in all the startup hubs in Austin, Boston, New York, and Silicon Valley, and Silicon Beach, which is LA. But in terms of foreign startup hubs like Berlin or London for fintech, I was involved in few deals, but I never really looked into outside US until I saw Ukraine having this world-class talent and lack of understanding of the market focus, go-to-market strategy, and some of the product strategy which should be market relevant. And looking at the gaps, and given that there are already existing leaders in the startup ecosystem who are helping a lot of startups and mentoring the startups, but there are a lot of other talent, which are raw talent is amazing. It's world-class, brilliant entrepreneurs, but they lack understanding of the markets. And building that bridge, bringing the right mentors from Silicon Valley or in general from US or any other mature startup hubs, and kind of nurturing these startups in the ecosystem and kind of making them ready for investment from more of U.S. angel syndicates and venture capitalists. So that's something that basically I was interested in last year, and I was looking for partners. I talked to a few folks and looked at different folks in the landscape, and Empire State Capital Partners basically was one of the folks that I was impressed in various areas. So I decided to partner with them and join them as senior advisor. And personally, me and Alex were looking at very specific deals and close to investing in 2 deals and 3 other in the pipeline. Again, we're looking forward to co-investing in some of the folks who are already established players here. But again, we're also planning on not just capital, but also a lot of startup expertise as well. How do you basically help, I think as some of the folks you're saying, how do you help Ukrainian startups or any startups from outside Ukraine with the Ukrainian base for talent R&D and talent pool or engineering pool? So basically helping them how to develop the startup into a global startup, which is basically doesn't matter where they are, but they are leveraging Ukrainian talent and Ukrainian innovation, which is basically, I think, if you look at the past few years, is changing a lot given the awareness and also some recent successes from Ukrainian founders. Definitely there's a different energy, and it's exciting to actually be here in that early formative stages and kind of tap into opportunities at the same time, help the overall startup ecosystem. So that's one of the main focuses at this point.
Thank you. Leon Podebedov, Gravia VC and board member of UAngels.
Thank you. I'll try to be the fastest one because I see a lot of questions from our guests already. So I'll start from Gravia VC. It's kind of interesting story. I think it would be interesting for all the guests. It was a classic venture in terms of the definition of this word. So 3 years ago, there was a few friends who decided, oh, let's try to invest into some companies. All 3 friends had some previous investments before, but we do not have the specific plan. We do not have some preparation. So it was just like ready, set, go, and we start to invest in somewhere. So for now, the Gravia VC is closed for almost a year, and I'm focused on UAngel community more. And now I'll talk more about UAngel. So it's the first and the biggest one angel investors group in Ukraine. We are more than 2 years old, and we have 35 or even more members now, both legal entities and private persons. And today I'm proud to announce the new initiative from UAngel. So we decided to start the Angel Co-Investment Cross-Border Fund. Yeah, I made it. I could spell it. Actually we'll do pretty much the same as Danish for entrepreneurs, but for Ukrainian business angels. So we want, it's not a VC fund in common definition, it's more like a big angel who wants to invest alongside the best local angel groups in Europe. So we selected some interesting region for us, like UK, like Nordic countries, like some Southern Europe countries, and we want to join the syndicates, so we'll cut the expenses for finding right projects, and we'll rely on some lead investor in this syndicate. And we'll do this initiative not only for UAngel members, but for all the guys who want to invest across the Europe. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your introductions, and I assume you are having a lot of questions to our panelists. So if you are, please raise your hand, and we will do something with it.
Just in general, we call it, how do you see, what is the barriers that you see to, that have to be rated, I guess? Andre is probably best to go to you. to get venture capital coming in? And also, what do you see on the skill sets of the competences of the actual entrepreneurs? I mean, do you see that the management skills are used helping in that area? And because that's one of the things that I see is the whole business model area.
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. You asked two questions. First about the barriers and the VC investments. So the usual barriers are psychological ones, right? That's the perception, and we're working on how to change the perception. And we're working successfully because, as I mentioned last year, I mean, first of all, half of the investments, it's international investments, and that number is growing. And the best way to change that perception is actually to consolidate or syndicate with already existing investments. As investors, this is what usually happens, right? As a first step. For example, in our association, 7 funds already raising capital. Some of them successful, some of them not. Still working on it, especially as the first fund managers. It's not easy to do so, right? Because the industry is young. And you need to also, I need to note that majority of the C funds are driven by the former entrepreneurs. They actually invest in own capital or the other tech entrepreneurs. That's the usual structure, not institutional ones. That's what I'm saying, right? On institutional level, I would say the only private equity funds that can raise the next round in the new funds they're raising, okay, institutional ones. And that's the reason why our association actually initiated the project which is called Fund of Funds, in order how to attract the bigger capital, right, from the bigger investors, and then to redistribute to the smaller funds on the ground. Okay, that's kind of vehicle that may solve this problem. And the biggest confidence is actually exits, right? When people heard about for example, Luxury, right, that Snapchat have bought, right? Of course, it attracted many investment from the local capital as well, right? Because we also have a local capital that also now looking to invest in IT startups. I would say probably everyone now in Ukraine wants to invest in startups, right? Now because it become kind of fashionable. Even a few years ago, it was not the case. That because of success stories. It's not only about the buzz, because some people making money already. Okay, so. And second question was about the management. As somebody already mentioned the panel, yes, we do have indeed the talent pool, which is most important thing, right? Technology is there. However, we're still missing on the high level the execution skills, which means sales and marketing, because technology is only, as I say, 20% of the business, right? 80% is execution, management, etc. And that skill is teachable. Basically, those entrepreneurs that already know how to do it or successful, they share that knowledge to the community. This is the way how you do it. Second way, every week I'm meeting people from Silicon Valley, San Francisco, coming here, establish office here. Not only now on the technology part, but also they're building, guys, just listen to this one. They're building out, not only inbound, but outbound sales vehicles and sales structure. It's very important. Not only inbound, like call centers. Yeah, this is what happened a lot in Ukraine, but outbound. Basically, the reason for that, because they see the skillable people here. They can teach. Obviously, cost is a driver, right? Obviously, right? In San Francisco, it's very hard not only retain people, but it's very hard burn rate, right? So, and this is how they survive, especially those that in SaaS model, right? Software as a service. It's very hard to be profitable. So basically, you need to cut your cost or relocate from Silicon Valley to Ukraine in order to become profitable and to actually replace your team. But you need to teach them. That's what I'm saying. And it's very important because once we actually fix that in terms of sales and marketing, of course, the total industry, total success stories happen more likely. So you're welcome to help that because we understand our, let's say, weak part as an industry, but we invite many people that could actually fix that gap and build the industry. You're welcome.
Hello, my name is Leon. I'm asking about the case when the people with a low level of capital wants to enter the venture capital project, some kind of startup, and then those people want to change their mind today they want to invest in drones, tomorrow to virtual reality. Is there any way that can help those people to easily switch from one to another and to enter or exit the VC, venture capital fund or something like that? Who can answer it? I don't know.
I'll try to answer that. So first of all, if someone wants to try investment, I think it would be the good idea to come to UAngel, because we have a lot of people from different areas of expertise, and we have a lot of people who invest only in drones or only in software as a service companies, and we also have a lot of people who do not invest during first or even second year, and I think it's a good idea for the new people there, because you could watch how others doing, and you can make some, I don't know, learning by doing there. So you can try to see where your colleague invests, and you can see different kind of projects there. So you should not start investing in some areas just after you thought about it.
So you're talking about crowd investing, right? Basically, you cannot, definitely UAngel is a great place to go, especially a local one. One of the things is like kind of mitigate your risk of as a new investor. If you join an angel syndicate, you basically are leveraging their expertise as well, and kind of risk management, and also understand the process of the overall investment and exit and everything like that. And you can always go into Angel List, like our crowd from Israel. There's a lot of them actually online. You can actually look into it just to get a feel for it. Start investing 5,000 here and there if you want to play with it, or just follow the investments and see how they're progressing and kind of understand before you jump in completely fully.
Excuse me, what I meant is what, for example, I can buy some kind of ETF that is investing in in one industry or other, but it's abroad. Here in Ukraine, we do have kind of problem with like legal investment in those kind of funds abroad. Is there any instrument here in Ukraine that could allow people to invest?
Well, I know one of them. High Castle is actually developing a platform. It's one of the partners here. We're developing a platform for a secondary market. So you can trade almost startup your equity in startups. So basically, it's a secondary market for startups and real estate as well.
How is it called?
It's called High Castle, highcastle.co.
Okay, I had some. The problem is Ukrainian startups can be physically in Ukraine, but incorporated in different countries. So we have no typical deal structure, and if you're planning to invest to startup, you need to be ready to jump in really hard process for deal structuring and to find different way to invest into the other companies. So I think the best way to join angel community like UAngel and to find a really strong angel who has really good experience and different cases for this. And the more important initiative, it's international investments, because Ukrainian practice is very, very unique. So if you will join the group of angel in maybe Baltic country, Poland, and other, you will have really wide deal flow, good, strong, experienced partners, and huge support from lawyers and the consultants who can structure the deal.
Hello, Bohdan Kupic, Core Borscht Ventures. Question to our colleague from Skolkovo, or former. So Skolkovo was a kind of a forced project to recreate a Silicon Valley in Russia. There have been attempts in Ukraine to build a city or a techno park, etc. What can we learn from Skolkovo, and how do you build the technology ecosystem that's not a building, not real estate, but human capital?
Skolkovo is a hugely successful project. I'm serious. It is hugely successful. Market of venture investments in 2010 was $22 million. Should I repeat that? $22 million. $22 million. That's it. Entire country from Pacific to Baltic. Let me go on. So it's 2010. In 2015, with the denomination of ruble, still the market of venture investments, true investments, I mean cash investments, exceeded billion. That's one dimension. Second dimension, you can count how much money were put into this. And the argument might be you would be better off just giving this money to entrepreneurs or something like that. But if you do that, you wouldn't have this field yielding the fruit. You understand, you put a lot of money, you put a lot of effort, the support is ongoing, and it's very strong support. International touch missing, and that impacts the entire field. But still, the amount of investments growing, and it's going to grow. And we see many sectors to become more mature in terms of venture investments environment. That's second thing. So basically, yes, you put a lot of water into this garden, but you see fruit trees that grow out of soil. And those trees are strong and self-sustaining. Three, again, if you speak about billions that were put into Skolkovo, Rosnano, RVC, etc., these are not one moment injections of money into the market. They're lengthy, right? The project of RVC started in 2008. Skolkovo started in 2010. We have 2017. So at least you have to spread that investment over years. And that immediately gives you the number that venture market significantly exceeds actually the financial injections of the state. Without any exaggeration, I would say that I would be thrilled and really proud if Ukraine has something like that. However, what I described was really deteriorated recently. And the biggest deterioration happened when it was decided, I think it was a decision to get rid of the international touch of everything that was related to international cooperation, development, etc. And that impacts startups, investors, community, etc., environment, and all that sort of thing. But let me repeat what I said initially. Skolkovo is a hugely successful project.
One of the things that I think lacking is we need to have accelerator type of kind of entities to help do the process, all the founders. So I'm looking at a virtual accelerator model without getting logged into real estate and all the other nuances that involved in there. So virtual accelerator basically helping bringing the kind of qualified startups, basically kind of putting them through the funnel, kind of helping them into actually a fundable companies. The startups can be from anywhere, but they need to create jobs here basically, or leverage talent here, right? And even partner with folks like WeWork or even local players like Platforma to actually house them. But that's basically is not. We want to invest in real estate, but more on the virtual accelerator side. So that's the start, and definitely anybody who wants to contribute to that or get involved would be actually helpful as well.
Thank you. Do you have any other questions? I'm sure you do. Okay. You have a question. Okay.
I have a question to the audience. Is anyone here did not invest yet in IT but considering to do so? Is anyone here? Or yeah? Okay, we have one. So the rest are already invested, correct? Okay. Who is actually expecting investments? Okay, more people here. Okay, good.
Okay, thank you.
I'm done.
Well, I have kind of unexpected question while audience is thinking. So we mostly talk about Silicon Valley, yeah? That we would like to build something like Silicon Valley in Ukraine, and we would like to relocate or to work with the companies from over there and from investors from the US. But what about Europe? What is your attitude to it? I mean, it's close. There are a lot of capital. European Commission put a lot of efforts in building like European Valley. Well, what is your attitude as investors and bankers to it? Anyone?
Europe is a very promising land in terms of development of venture investments. My recent experience is about Eureka program, if anyone knows what it is. It's basically 2 or 3 countries coming together to develop one venture project. That gives you all, cooperation, integration, money, expertise, support from various sources, etc. If you don't know about this program, please look at this. This year it's led by Switzerland, so basically, everybody who's Swiss here, you should be okay with that. Obviously, you know about European Investment Fund that kind of supports creating. Is it you? No? Oh, okay. who helps creating venture capital funds, and the framework of working of EIF is so predictable and strict at the same time that funds that come out from that machine are really reliable and interesting. Also, there are several clusters. I know Berlin cluster for biomed, and that's amazing. Having said all of that, somehow Europe is still looks like a startup market in comparison to the States. In my area, the IRR, if you know what it is, profitability of biomed investments in the States is between 24 and 26%. In Europe, it was 4%, and that's kind of it's good that it's not negative, but still it's not enough. So I would say international integration, my point, international integration is important for Europe as well. You might not agree, I guess.
No, I do.
Oh, great, awesome.
I can add some experience from us, the European Investment Bank, and our subsidiary, the European Investment Fund. The EIF, yes, is our arm to support equity financing, participation to funds of funds. This is basically their bread and butter. I would like to come back to this question about public investment. This is very old school to say public investment, but this is a clear requirement to support the sector, research, development, innovation. We cannot do without that. It's not true, because for example, you were citing the European Commission. There is this program, and also a program of support for research, fundamental research, which is extremely important. Our weakness in Europe is that we have brains, we know how to develop patents and so on, so forth, but we don't know how to roll out this into clear products, into marketable products and processes that can raise more money, that can introduce growth. This is our real weakness. Now, talking about Europe versus Ukraine, as you know, Ukraine has just signed this DCFTA agreement, which basically puts Ukraine in the right track to be integrated ultimately to Europe. This is the first step. So it means that your natural market will become Europe. That is very important. And this will become, in a very few years, your quasi-domestic market. Let's put it this way. So let's keep that into your mind, that there is here real facilities for you to come to Europe and to develop in Europe with the support of Europe?
Okay, I'm more skeptic about Europe. We spent about 2 years in Europe, and we did some projects, consulting projects on ecosystem development with the Ministry of Economic of Luxembourg, with the Parliament of Austria, and we discovered really deep the quasi-government ecosystem in Switzerland and in Ireland. So there is no country called Europe. There are no market called European market. It's a pool of markets. It's really hard to build a business there. It's one problem. So if you go into the Europe, you need to start at least with the 5 products. It's not one product like in the United States where one language, like one use case for most of countries and so on. At the first. At the second, Europe, sorry for European colleagues, to socialistic region. So it's really easy to raise grants from government for European startups, but it's put really hard limitation for your startups, and it will be really hard to grow internationally. So only 5% of European startups trying to build really global product. Most of them are locals. Minority of them like pan-European, but it's only few examples, like not more than maybe 10, the big companies like SoundCloud, but SoundCloud, and the most of market of SoundCloud in the United States, like car sharing service, BlaBlaCar, and so on. So I know the huge community in Silicon Valley from Europe. Those entrepreneurs told me it's impossible to build 1 billion company in Europe. It's really hard. So they're trying to relocate, to move to not other region, to Silicon Valley, New York, LA, and so on. And regarding Silicon Valley, in Ukraine, in Germany, in London, it's a bullshit, because I'm trying. Okay, Israel, it's not Silicon Valley. It's Israeli ecosystem. The Israeli guys have built their own ecosystem. It's not like Silicon Valley. So I have the lecture, 2 hours lecture, the history of Silicon Valley. It's history of ecosystem, and I'm starting from the 15th century. So it's history not about 20 years, not about 100 years. It's really deep history, and I don't believe it's possible to build this history in 5, 10, maybe 20 years. It's impossible.
I'll tell you what is possible. Possible that Ukrainian IT industry and now coming back to Ukraine, to the Europe. Dennis is right. It's pretty much fragmented, but I tell you things that are already happening. Europe could be a good market at the beginning of the venture. And when I say Europe, it's true that UK market different from the Germany one, and so on and so on. But Ukrainian startups are selling to European countries, okay? Depending on the model, depending on the sector, but this is already happening. Secondly, the Europe in the places like Berlin or London have a few good accelerator programs that force to participate for Ukrainian startups. Many of those go there and then come back. Why? Because it's true that in our ecosystem in Ukraine, which do exist, we have many acceleration programs. That's why it's forced to go to the Europe. That's number 2. Number 3, Europe is a great market for IT outsourcing companies. Okay? For example, I'm on the board of Cyclum, and I can tell you that half of their customers, it's a big company, it's more than $150 million in revenues, half of their clients are in Europe. So it's a good market for the IT Ukrainian outsourcing company, and complement what you just said about the European market, and we're already part of it. For IT outsourcing companies, we've been there for decades, okay? So we've already been there. Now, if it's going to be easier, that means we're going to bring more business for Ukrainian IT outsourcing company. That means that we'll get better valuation, and we'll have more M&A and investments coming in our IT outsourcing companies, okay? Which is good news for private equity guys and debt providers like yourself, okay? So this is number 3. And I tell you what my colleagues in the Europe, regardless of the country, say. We invest first, like you, doing the same in Ukraine, and then we motivate our portfolio company and go to US. Okay? These people telling me in Berlin, in the London, in the Warsaw, everywhere in Europe. We invest first, we first officially invest, and then our company go into US. Okay? This is people telling me in Europe. Okay? Which means that's the answer. Yeah? US is the biggest market in the world, and even European startups are competing with European Ukrainian startups going and win in US market. So we are in the same boat. This is what Europe is.
Thank you for your answers. Any other comments? You have a question? Okay, we have a microphone over there.
Thank you, Sergey Maulik, and further to infrastructure and peculiarities of European legislation, the role of the government in venture industry in Ukraine. Government and other authorities, positive, negative, how it is possible to make these guys be more, as Andrei already told, second industry in terms of volume, but we all know that government didn't take big part in this fact. So share your ideas about the role of the government. Thank you.
Favorite topic.
Okay, I have a clear position about it. So I think the success of Ukrainian IT industry is we spend maybe 10 years just under radar. So no any governments, no any regulation can recognize this business like business. So it's really good point. Second, in our industry we have really huge problem, and previous governments or current governments can't help us with it. It's the decree of cabinet ministry 1593 maybe, yeah? So Ukrainians can't incorporate, can invest money and incorporate company in other jurisdiction before holding special license of our national bank. So it's one of the hugest problem of the industry, and nobody can help us. So we are working like we can, but the problem is do not touch us. We are okay. It's my position. I know a lot of my colleagues don't share it, but old style first-time entrepreneurs, yes, it's our position.
Yes, it's true what Denis said, and it's true about the old Ukraine, but the new Ukraine is emerging, right? That's the name of this conference. And that means that even our association also actually grew up around the things, how to build investment climate ourselves, not to rely on the government to build it and we wait for it, okay? And the Ukraine, it's a fact. It's the only country in the world that have actually built the industry without any support from the government. Just be proud of this fact, because this is our differentiator, okay? And this is how we become strong, this is how we build the industry, right? However, at the moment, when you say government, right, there are three different things, right? Parliament's one thing, and we're working on the draft laws, right? And it's good the industry actually consolidated to finally to push these laws. This is how the changes are happening. It's one thing. Secondly is that, we don't expect government people understand what we do, but, you know what I'm saying, right? But many of those are businessmen, former businesses. So basically, some of those actually promoting investments because they promoting all own assets as well, right? Because they have already assets in this country, so they need to promote investments. However, it's true that we have many problems. Ukrainians so proud and tell a lot about problems. But guess what? As investors, we invest in people that solving problems, okay? So maybe Ukraine is going to be the first country that will use artificial intelligence for the government, okay? We will create the product that will replicate to some other countries. So our problems is our heritage, but it's also something that we love to have because we have people creative that's solving this problem, okay? They become creative because they live in the very tough environment, right? That's what was said previously. A lot of grants were given away in Europe, but still they're not very well creative because our entrepreneurs, they fighting for the client and with the government at the same time, okay? This is what becomes, what makes them strong. This is how I see it, okay? So with the government, we have this relationship in a sense that we can promote ourselves, but by using different things, right? You know that we have a work of export promotion agency as well. Sometimes we do the first step, like for example, our stations this year for the first time represented Ukraine during the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. We didn't wait for our government to build the stand like the Israel did, or France, or some other countries on the government budget. We did it ourselves, okay? And we showed to our government the success of it now to follow. And guess what? We sponsor, just give you a simple fact. We sponsored Astarta from Ukraine to be represented in this Consumer Electronics Show for the first time for the last 50 years. That was the first representation of Ukraine during this show. People that know this show, it's 200 people coming each year to Consumer Electronics Show at Las Vegas. Biggest show in the world. Guess what? 7 out of 8 startups got investment after this show. This show was in late of January. For the last 3 months, seven companies received investment. This is already the fact. This is how we can show to the government what they should support. Not talking about it, but show them ourselves and let them to follow it. So this is how we see cooperation. Not to wait, but create investment climate by ourselves. So you're welcome to join. Thank you.
Thank you.
In short notes, 2 years ago we decided to build the rating, the government and quasi-government structures who help Ukrainian IT industry. Okay, number 1, it's Embassy of United States. Number 2, it's the Embassy of Israel. Number 3, it's USAID. Number 4 is CRDF. And next, 5 or 6 was embassies of non-Ukrainian countries. It's impossible. But if you will build the list of the main enemies of Ukrainian IT industry, guess who was top 10 position? The Ukrainian government structure like Ministry of not education, but SBU, Ministry of International, like, and another. So it's what's about role of Ukrainian government and country at all in success of Ukrainian industry.
Thank you. Do you have any other questions? Okay, well, I think we kind of out of time, so I would like to encourage, and I would like to encourage you to say thank you to our panelists and to continue discussion during the coffee break.